Thank you guys so much for supporting this 50-state adventure. I can't believe we pulled it off. 50 states in 50 days.
I wonder what happened to the Airbnbs afterwards.
This got me wondering. Like, did these places see crazy increases in guests? Did they raise their prices? Did they add any references? They have to, right? Like, literally one of the biggest YouTubers on the internet visited. Surely this is game-changing for these Airbnbs. In case you missed it, last summer, Ryan Trahan uploaded a huge series where he traveled to all 50 states in 50 days, staying at some of the coolest Airbnbs in each state. I want to look into this. You see these types of videos all the time. You know, where a YouTuber goes to some cool place or location, but it's always so far away from your house. But this series literally went to all 50 states, which means, as an American, means that at least some of these locations are within driving distance of me. So, my search began. The obvious choice, being a Missouri resident, is to go to the Missouri location. Well, that's not as fun, given that I live pretty close to Springfield already, so what about Arkansas? Well, that price definitely prices me out. Oh, well of course, why not go to the winner of the whole thing, Oklahoma? Same story here, also priced out. Makes sense since this Airbnb has enough space for 10 guests. Definitely seems more catered to a large group rather than just me and my wife. But honestly, one of the more charming locations that they went to, and the one they kept bringing up, was the Zome on the Range in Kansas. Not too bad of a drive for us, and it gets us a nice little trip away from home. We were already planning on doing a video in Kansas City anyways, so off we go. Well, here we are, the Zome on the Range. The Zome is just as charming in person as it is on video. I was surprised to see another Airbnb right next to it. You don't really see it in Ryan's video. The other Airbnb is much more of your traditional cottage, as opposed to, the unique architectural style of the Zome. I will be honest though, being here in person really does show how much bigger the place actually is, compared to, just watching it on YouTube. Alright, now that we're here, let's jump into a new section I like to call Olio Reviews Airbnbs. Our cost per night was $197. The Airbnb could reasonably sleep 4 people, 5 or 6 if you sleep them on the couches, but everyone is really just sleeping in the same room, so it's probably best for families to stay here. Decent hotels and areas cost between $120 and $190 a night, at least at the time of writing. So what kind of things are there to do in the area? Well, in the welcome book, they do include a nice list of things that you can do in the area, including things like restaurants and trails. But I'm gonna be honest, this part of Kansas doesn't have a ton of things to do. Really, in my mind, you are staying here for one of 3 reasons. 1, you think the Zome is really cool, which it is. 2, you're visiting family or friends. Or 3, you came here because Ryan stayed here. I'm sure there might be other reasons, but these are probably the main overarching reasons. Next, cleanliness. The Airbnb was very clean. Clean sheets, plenty of toiletries, no problems in that category. Views and cool factor. Well, this is really where the Airbnb shines. The architectural style is awesome. The views outside are much more of your typical Midwest rolling hills, but that's charming in its own way. As for the chores, one of my biggest gripes when I visit an Airbnb are all the chores you have to do when you check out. Ryan really didn't touch on this in his videos, so I was curious to see what we'd have to do when we stay in this Airbnb. Thankfully, these hosts didn't require too much. We had to tie up the trash, wash our dishes, and leave all used towels on the shower floor. Not too bad for just 2 people. Overall, do I think that staying on the Zome on the Range is worth it? Absolutely. For just a bit more than nearby hotels, you're given an entire house, which, is a really cool house. Alright, so the big question in the video. Does anything change in an Airbnb after a major YouTuber visits? And what, if anything, is different from their visit compared to a normal person? Let's jump into the first question. Do YouTubers get special treatment at Airbnbs just because they're famous? Well, obviously if you watch the series, the answer is almost certainly yes, at least to some extent. But I wanted to see how much. So in Ryan's video, there are 2 things that stood out to me at the Zome on the Range. Number 1, there were fresh muffins waiting for him when they arrive. And number 2, a complimentary tractor ride. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that number 2 is almost certainly because Ryan is famous, but you never know. So, when we first arrived, we were pleasantly surprised by, yes, there are in fact fresh muffins waiting for us in the same place where Ryan and Haley were given theirs. What about the tractor ride offer?
Obviously, no, we were not offered a tractor ride. So, at least for the Kansas Airbnb, did Ryan get special treatment? Sorta, but nothing crazy. Next question we had. Do Airbnb owners advertise the fact that a YouTuber was there at some point or leave any references in person? Well, straight up, online, they do not mention him anywhere in the listing.
Hey, quick editor's note here. Looking at the listing, it does actually say featured in Ryan Trahan series 50 States in 50 Days. I don't know if I just missed it the first time or if they added this later, but it does say that now.
What about in person? Walking in, there's not any obvious details until you open up the welcome folder. And right there on the front cover is, yep, Ryan's video with links. Also, Ryan did leave behind a memento from his visit, and the owners have left it on display. So, at this location, yes, there are a few references to Ryan's visit. I do wonder how long they'll keep these up and displayed for. Alright, next question. Do the prices of the Airbnbs go up just because a famous YouTuber visited? Okay, so finding prices on the Airbnbs in the past is actually pretty hard. Using archival websites, I can see that the Airbnb was listed at 13,237 rubles. Quick conversion, not taking into account inflation, that comes out to around $160 a night. So, what I can say is this. The price of this Airbnb is right in line with other nearby Airbnbs. For the price of our trip was $197 a night, which was a little more expensive than it was a year and a half ago. So, does a YouTuber visiting an Airbnb automatically make it cost more? Maybe, but it's not outrageously priced, especially comparing it to other nearby Airbnbs. Final question before we get to the big question. How does a YouTuber visiting an Airbnb affect the popularity of the property? Is the place much more popular now than it was before? Well, I don't have access to all the sales data because, I'm not the owner, but I did come up with one way to go about this, although maybe not the absolute best way to measure popularity. But what I did was I measured the frequency of past reviews, like how often it was receiving a review. I thought maybe this could give me some insight in how many people are visiting. Pulling all the data, I made a chart that shows every review every month since the Airbnb opened. Based on the review history, it looks like this Airbnb opened sometime in 2021. The Airbnb hovers around 8 reviews a month in the summer months and drops to around 2 or 3 in the winter. Just glancing at the data here, it's obvious that summertime, specifically July, seems to be the busy season for the property. But this summer was significantly higher. There is an undeniable spike in reviews immediately following the release of Ryan's video. Many of the reviews around this time specifically call out Ryan's video as inspiration for their visit. At the time of writing, being early October, I have compiled all the data up through September. This is where it gets a little bit interesting. The number of reviews has tanked back down to their traditional numbers, with just 4 reviews in September, which is actually less than this time last year, much more in line with previous years. So, does a YouTuber visiting an Airbnb automatically mean more people are visiting? Well, at least at first, yes, but it looks like it drops back down to normal numbers after the hype is worn off. To me, this makes sense. It does surprise me seeing how quickly the numbers drop after just a few months. Shows how quickly the internet moves on. Alright, to revisit, do these Airbnbs change much after a YouTuber visits? It seems like not really. What about the experience? Well, what you see is pretty much what you get. Unless you're looking for a tractor ride, you probably will not be getting that at the Zome on the Range. Well, hey, that's all for this video. What'd you guys think of the Zome on the Range? What other places would you like to see covered in a future Olio video? Please leave them in the comments. I will see you all next time.